Hi, everybody. Hope you're having a good day so far. We're seeing a very concerning trend here, going in a very scary direction in terms of online censorship and surveillance. They want everything tracked, traced, data-based, going through their controlled platforms where they can rig the flow of information towards the propagandistic ideals, towards the establishment narrative and agenda, and away from counter ideologies. And we're seeing now an attack on the alt sites, which have sprung to prominence. There's a big lull for these, alt sites. A lot of them weren't even created initially when YouTube, Facebook, Twitter were taking over the internet. And that was because people were able to achieve so much value using these mainstream sites. And there wasn't much censorship initially. Now that there is censorship, there's a huge marketplace for alternative systems and platforms and ways of doing things and getting information and sharing and expressing yourself. And they can't have that. They want everybody going through the mainstream controlled tech sites where they can use the user-generated content as ammunition against people's minds in an attempt to conquer them. So think about YouTube. They're sitting on trillions of pieces of content, and every time you go to the homepage, they get to choose some things to show you and recommend, and you look over them, and you're like, oh, should I watch this or this or this? And of course, they seem somewhat relevant and interesting sometimes, but wouldn't that be what the algorithm would recommend you watch in order to mind control you? You're more likely to be controlled by something that you want to watch than something that you hate or turned off to, unless that is reverse psychology in that case. So they can kind of transcend all the previous work they had to do in terms of broadcast and print, where they would, basically go to behavioralists in the field of psychology, and they would find patterns in people and exploit those patterns in how we operate and come to conclusions and make decisions. Now they can automate all of that. They can run billions of experiments every minute to see what content they can show you to maximize the indoctrination and minimize the so-called radicalization or extremismization. So this is very concerning. The reason I wanted to dive through and just do a reminder about the online harms bill is there's a petition circling, an anti-freedom petition, because, oh no, people are getting bullied on the internet by anonymous people that they can't prosecute, they can't investigate, and they need those clues. So we have to give up all our rights so that the police can get some extra clues when they investigate people for wrongthink or for saying the wrong thing to somebody. And what they want to do in this anti-freedom petition is make it a requirement for everybody to provide and have it verified their government ID when they sign up for social media accounts. So that means everything you post could be traced back, and it already kind of can be on these major sites, although they want to go for every site. So they want to be able to trace it back and be able to prosecute you, which is concerning. And I can't go into this too much because I want to publish this onto YouTube. But there was a new law commissioner in the UK, Penny Lewis, who right before this whole big shindig popped off for the past year, they wanted to make it a criminal offense to say anything negative to their shots. And I think that is very telling. So once they make things criminal offenses, then they can go after, things in terms of fake news or misinformation that's dangerous to the public health, or et cetera, et cetera. It's very concerning. In the United States, we're going to see the same thing rolled out. I have a feeling we already see bills that mirror what they have in the UK, more or less, or what they're trying to push in the UK, I should say, with their online harms legislation. And they're going to warp it to be like their favorite excuse for curtailing free speech, which isn't a valid excuse, by the way, where they say, oh, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. I don't know why you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Oh, because people might hurt themselves leaving the theater. It's like, okay, that's a really bad excuse. And then they warp everything to be that. And even that's a bad excuse. It's like, I can't really see people getting hurt doing that. I mean, come on. And then they take something that's 100 times more innocuous than the crowded theater analogy. And then they say, oh, just like you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, you can't say that about that. I'm trying to be vague. Fill in the blanks. You guys know what they're gunning for. And we're going to cover here how they're already connecting it in some of these write-ups. They're like, oh, there's too much information or misinformation going on. The WHO says there's an infodemic, and we want to be able to regulate that. So basically, and we'll cover this in depth here, what they want to do in the UK is have a global internet regulator. They want to have, as their government, they want to have that government looking over everything everybody's allowed to do on the internet, including the online service providers, which are the ISPs and the websites, and the users of the sites. And apparently this isn't enough or enough for some people. 141,000 people have signed this petition here, calling for making verified ID a requirement for opening a social media account. You know how stupid this is. You know how tyrannical this is. Absolutely bonkers. And it mentions, if we click more details, it mentions the online harms bill doesn't go far enough in making online abuse a specific criminal offense. So they try to use this excuse where they say, oh, we want to make sure that there's no child exploitation going on the internet. And we're like, isn't that already a law that you can't do that? And but it's really just a foot in the door. I mean, I was going to cover this later. There's a lot of articles like this. Dutch police aren't investigating so-called pedophiles who go and target minors on the internet. Apparently, the police aren't even looking into that, and that's already against the law, isn't it? And they're actually going out of their way. Here's a story in Netherlands back in November, so not that long ago, where the police came out and put out a press release and said, stop harassing the pedophiles who were just trying to hit on the children. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? And then they want to tell us that we all have to be censored, and their excuse is, oh, well, we're protecting the children. It's like, you are exploiting the children and protecting the people who are exploiting the children. You're masking the children. You're making it very hard for them to breathe. So I'm jumping all over the place, but let's keep going through some of this information. So here is the Guardian's write-up from a few months ago about online harms bill. They're threatening people or companies, online websites, for multi-billion-dollar pound fines. Not dollar pounds. Multi-billion pound fines for what they call illegal or harmful content. So, of course, illegal content's already illegal. But now they're adding this new, very broad category, harmful content, which is something that Google has been talking about for a long time in terms of reducing harm, and it's their favorite term. I think it's because it has to do with tort law, and if you say that you were harmed or you were damaged, then there's a legal precedent for saying that somebody should have their speech censored and punished, right? Very, very concerning the direction they're going, because they're going to warp everything politically to be harmful to somebody. Oh, you can't say that. That's harmful. That's like yelling fire in a crowded theater. It's like I said that I'm trying not to give any examples that'll get me censored off YouTube. So I'm not going to say it. Fill in the blank. There's a couple big ones that have happened recently, having to do with the whole world shutting down and the American election, for instance. Okay, so again, right here, you can see in the sub headline here, oh, they want to stop child sexual abuse and terrorism. Well, of course, we all want to stop child sexual abuse. I would hope everybody wants to stop that. There are already laws that should be enforced on that. And terrorism, it's like, okay, this is where it starts getting vague, because we know that this has been the last 20 years, their narrative for curtailing freedoms. Oh, we have to stop terrorism. Terror. You know, I'm just picturing those compilation videos of Bush saying terror over and over again. If we don't deal with this now, then the smoking gun might be a mushroom cloud, they said. Right? And also, there's an interesting quote. Let me pull this up. Okay, so yeah, it's a Joseph Stalin quote, and it's very pertinent. And it's also interesting to point out that the people who are accusing us of being terrorists, essentially, oh, we have to take down that content because that's a driver of terrorism. oh, conspiratorialism drives terrorism, I should say. The governments are the people who rule out of terror, rule through terror. I mean, look at everything that's happening in the world. Look at 9/11. Look at some other events that they'll just delete me off of YouTube for talking about. And by the way, go check out Odyssey where I can actually speak my mind. I might even do like a part 2 on this where I just say everything that I can't say on YouTube. But I do want to publish on YouTube every day. But I'm trying to help people break out of the reservation, so to speak. Okay, here's the Stalin quote. The easiest way to gain control of the population is to carry out acts of terror. The public will clamor for such laws if their personal security is threatened. This is a big threat to our democracy, right? And that's what this whole thing is about. You know, this episode today talking about how they get us to trade our rights for safety and security, right? Okay, so I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover from this article here. Let's look at the petition here. 140,000 people allegedly thought this was a good idea. Although, let's be clear, this is on the parliament.uk website. They could easily rig this number. They could have a script just putting random stuff in their database, for instance. We know that they have tons and tons of shady tricks that they do. They had, this is JTRIG, the Joint Threat Research Intelligence Group. This is a document that was leaked. I'm going to do more videos in the future just going through all these documents, but here's their operation playbook from page 47 of this document. The different operations they can do to disrupt. Infiltration operation, ruse operation, set piece operation, false flag operation, false rescue operation, disruption operation, sting operation. And they have all these like tactics for pulling groups apart and all these different things that they can do to people in order to make them comply. Then there's also the 77th Brigade, which has openly been engaged in combating anti-establishment ideas about what's going on in the world today. They have gambits for deception here, all of these different items. I mean, this is definitely a topic for another day because I like to go through all this stuff. But just a whole guide about deceiving people. Here's something off their Wikipedia page, another great document. I couldn't find it in its entirety, but it's right here, the screenshot I wanted to share. This is in one of their manuals or some report about them or something. Operations, methods, and techniques. All of JTRIG's operations are conducted using cyber technology. Staff described a range of methods and techniques that have been used to date for conducting effects operations. These include uploading YouTube videos containing persuasive communications to discredit, promote distrust, dissuade, deter, delay, and disrupt. I'm gonna stop reading that line because it's on practically every bullet point. To discredit, promote distrust, dissuade, deter, delay, and disrupt. Okay, the next one. Setting up Facebook groups, forums, blogs, and Twitter accounts that encourage and monitor discussion on a topic. Establishing online aliases and personalities who support the communications or messages in YouTube videos, Facebook groups, forums, blogs, etc. I wonder if that etc. includes petitions to the UK government to make it look like people are clamoring for a solution. The good old Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. So this petition here is calling for making verified ID a requirement for opening a social media account. I get the feeling this is what the government wants to do anyway, but they want to make it look like, they're the people are so upset with the government inaction and not protecting the children. Well, I agree the government's not protecting the children, but this is not going to help. This is going to basically sell the children to the evil bastards who are ruining their lives. I mean, the most valuable thing we have, and the most valuable thing children have, is their mind. And we need to protect all of our minds and be able to preserve the ability to think freely and express ourselves. And they get their foot in the door with saying they're trying to protect from sexual abuse and terrorism, and yet they turn around and they censor people for questioning the government or saying things that are contrary to their overlords. Remember, the governments aren't really calling the shots. They're puppets on strings most of the time for these super wealthy international oligarchs, people who make tons of money, say off banking and central banking. Okay. Also, I kind of want to make a little joke here. What's the government going to do? I hope they have some friends in big tech, because a lot of their fake accounts that they've been using for JTRIG, like it says right here, set up online aliases and personalities, and use those aliases and personalities to support other aliases. So there's just a web of like fake agent accounts. And the U.S. Army does this too, and tons of different groups. Israeli Mossad, by way of deception, wage war is the Mossad motto. So my joke is, are they going to have, is this going to be a hindrance to the people who are just, having a ton of fake sock puppet accounts made to look like real people so that they can pretend like there's a demand for the increase of tyranny and fascism? Probably not. I mean, the government could probably just forge them a bunch of fake IDs, right? They have no problem pretending to be people in their own country. Why wouldn't they just make IDs for them? So it's just absolutely ridiculous. And looks like they're using a disabled son in order to push for this. Oh, the online harms bill doesn't go far enough, it says. The law needs the removal of anonymity to ensure that users cannot cause harm by using online platforms to abuse others. Where an offense has taken place, they ought to be easily identified and reported to the police and punished. And remember, the online harms doesn't just talk about abuse. It also talks about misinformation, so-called misinformation. And keep in mind, whenever you hear somebody talking about misinformation in terms of like needing to regulate it, they're basically saying we need thought police. We need thought police because people are incorrect. And the thought police are going to come and make sure that everybody's correct. It's like, okay, you guys know this is all going to be abused politically, right? It's all going to be abused politically. Show me one time in history where the people burning the books were the good guys, okay? So just absolutely crazy that people are signing this or that they're faking it. I really don't put anything past these people. The governments, I mean. Okay, here's the online harms white paper. There's a couple different versions of this. There's the full version here, and then there's the joke version. I'm just kidding. This is a real document. It's a 33-page document. It's called the Easy Read version of their white paper. Right here, it defines online harms: behavior online which may hurt a person physically or emotionally. It may hurt a person physically or emotionally. It could be harmful information that is posted online or information sent to a person. Not even to that person, just information sent to any person, I guess. Okay, so let's go to this full-length one here. It says, in the wrong hands, the internet can be used. The internet's not in anybody's hands. I mean, the internet's so big and vast, it's kind of like swimming in the ocean, right? It's like, if there's a space on the internet you don't feel comfortable, there's plenty of other spots on the internet where you can go. And all of these major sites offer an ability to block people and mute people, except for BitChute. I know people are going to start harassing me for saying that on BitChute, but I'm tired of the comment section, man. I wish I could clean that up. Lots of dumb people on BitChute, I got to say. Although a lot of really cool people, but I find the quality of people much higher on Odyssey. Just saying. All right, so. And I think a lot of the people on BitChute are government agents as well. So I always like to delete the government agents trying to make us look like we're all a bunch of skinhead, racist, fascists, for instance. Okay. So it says, in the wrong hands, the internet can be used to spread terrorist and other illegal or harmful content, undermine civil discourse, and abuse or bully other people. Online harms are widespread and can have serious consequences. Do you remember, was that in the UK where they had the billboard? They had to come back and retract this, but they had a billboard that says, being offensive is an offense. And then they had to come out and apologize. They're like, yeah, technically it's not an offense. Yet. All right, so it says we cannot allow these harmful behaviors in content to undermine the significant benefits that the digital revolution can offer. Now look at this. It says, if we surrender our online spaces, your online spaces, to those who spread hate, abuse, fear, and vitriolic content, then we all lose. All right, so I have a big distinction to make here. If you guys want to fight against hate by using your own propaganda and stuff and giving people content moderation tools or allowing platforms to delete stuff that they don't want to host, I am fine with that. I mean, actually, sometimes it bothers me, but I don't think that there should be, I'm not going to object to it. I'm just going to look for alternatives, right? Now, here's the problem. Once you start making it a criminal offense to say something that the government doesn't approve of, to criticize the government or criticize the people who really own the government, the shadow parallel government, then you have a problem with me. And also when you start making it so that alternatives can't compete with these monopolies, which are ruining the discourse and using creepy algorithms to algorithmically brainwash and mind control people, then you've got a problem with me. Okay, so basically they're starting to want to have an internet regulator in charge of deciding what is and what is not allowed to be said across the entire internet. That means everybody across the world is going to be affected by these decisions, or by these edicts, I should say. Now, here's the key part. They want to put a duty of care. Let me see if I can, I think I had, yeah, right here. So this is another article about the bill. It says UK online safety bill coming next year. This was written in December of last year. Will propose fines of up to 10% of annual turnover for breaching duty of care rules. So basically, duty of care is a euphemism where it's the government telling people that they have to do X, Y, and Z. They have to sterilize people like they used to do with the model sterilization laws in like 30 of the U.S. states and in many other countries. Nazi Germany had eugenics courts and lots of sterilization, which they actually got the idea from the United States. But that was all the duty of care. They said, oh, you have a duty of care. If somebody is a schizophrenic, they would tell people, and there were the psychiatrists in the Soviet Union, if this person's a sluggish schizophrenic, here's what you need to do. We need to put them in, the insane asylum, essentially. Now, a lot of times that would be abused politically, of course. They would say, well, the duty of care means that anybody criticizing the Soviet party is, needs to be punished. That's the duty of care for the psychiatrists, right? So now they want duty of care for the websites on the internet and huge fines to force their hands. And also they can block entire sites, I believe, which don't comply. Although 10% is going to make people obey pretty quickly. Now, the duty of care is where it gets very concerning if you look at what they're actually telling the companies they have to do. Companies in scope, it says, as part of their compliance with the overarching duty of care to keep users safe, they have to ensure that they take on the terms and conditions that are thrust upon them by the regulator. The internet regulator, that's what this means right here. The UK wants to have an internet regulator to decide what's true, what's false, what's hate, what's love, etc. They also want to force companies to enforce their terms and conditions to prevent, and this is a one that you have to read between the lines to ask yourself, what is terrorist content, right? We've seen this allegation thrown around a lot, and it's starting to really look like it's just people who think in a way that is inconvenient to the ruling oligarchy. Prevent known terrorist or child exploitative content being made available to users. Now, a lot of this stuff pretty much is already the law. Like, why do they have to make it get more against the law? It's really because they want to make it sound like they're fighting for the children. In my opinion, I think this is what they're trying to do. Meanwhile, they really want to just get their foot in the door and then be the thought police for the entire world. The INGSOC thought police. Take prompt, transparent, and effective action following Karen reporting. Then you have to also work with law enforcement to bring criminals who break the law online to justice. And then this is where the petition comes in, of course, where they want to make all social media sites verify with government ID the people who are signing up. Absolutely bonkers, worse than bonkers, tyrannical, and oppressive. Okay. So they want to bring in a regulator, right? Let's go through this document here. This is the 33-page easy read white paper. The UK government wants to be the safest place in the world to go online. There is a lot of illegal and hurtful information online. People are worried about online harm. We need a new regulatory framework to make sure that people are safe online. Now, keep in mind, Facebook has also been calling for more regulation. They're like running ads on websites. I saw it the other day. I was going to pull it up for the video, but I didn't want to go through and re-find it. I did find this article talking about it. Facebook's proposed regulations are just things it's already doing. I wonder why they would want the companies on the internet to be forced to do something they're already doing. Oh, could it be they don't want everyone just going to the better places where they're not going to be ruled over by the oligarchs as much? Could it be that they want to create a barrier to entry to make it hard for people to compete with Facebook and to ensure their monopoly with the help of the state, forcing the other companies to also suck as much? I think so. I really do think so. And there's precedents for this as well, say in the tobacco industry, where they some of the major players asked the television or asked Congress to ban smoking ads from TV. And it's kind of a long story. It has to do with the fairness doctrine, where anti-tobacco groups could run ads at the same rate that the tobacco groups ran advertisements. So the big players were like, hey, this doesn't make sense for us to do this on the TV, and we don't want anyone else to be able to do it either. So it's all about protecting the monopolies, is my point. All right, that's all I really wanted to cover on this one here. Let's keep going through this write-up. The problem, there's a lot of illegal and harmful information and activity online. It's like, if it's illegal, then it shouldn't be allowed there. If it's harmful, then it shouldn't be allowed there. Now, we do run into some issues as far as legality with the internet, because you have a lot of these communist hellholes, like, in my opinion, the UK and Canada and New Zealand and Australia. Shout out to all the people who live there, the good people. But your governments suck, in my opinion, and they're ruining the internet for the rest of us. And their laws affect all of us. So that's my point there. So it says there's a lot of harmful information and activity online. I love the little, like, cartoonish images over here. They're so ridiculous. It's like, oh no, people are thumbing down the BBC. Oh no, people are thumbing down the news. That's harmful. It's against the law to give the BBC a thumbs down. I'm just kidding. So, online platforms can also be used for abuse and bullying too. They can be used to go against our democratic values or to stop proper debate from happening. First of all, your side never debates. Their side will never come on and debate me. They'll never debate anybody who I consider on my side, pro-freedom. They just have this air of supremacy, intellectual supremacy, and they think that they're the moral good guys. That's at least what they project. And we see this in a lot of different areas. You'll never have the NASA fanboys come and debate. You'll never have the mainstream medical fanboys come and debate. They just talk as if they know everything and they're right. And they're like, oh, there's too much misinformation on the internet. Why aren't they censoring this? We need to pass some laws to make this illegal. But they never actually want to have conversations. And then they come out with this spin where they're like, oh, these people are making it so we can't have a proper debate. It's like, no, you guys just want to pretend like you're having a debate with a double bind, have one controlled group debate another controlled group, so people choose one of them when they're both a controlled group. And you don't like that people are coming in calling it what it is. And then also this line here just evokes that montage compilation of the news anchor saying, people are on the internet expressing their ideas. This is a big threat to our democracy. This is a big threat to our democracy. Look at this. Democratic values. Everyone being treated equally and fairly and freedom of speech. That's not a democratic value. Everyone being treated equally. I hate this stuff where they're like, there's no place for hate. Everybody must treat everybody exactly equal. And you're like, what about the rapist, who just got caught molesting children? It's like, I've got to love him and treat him with respect the same way I treat somebody who's doing some really great, empowering liberation of humanity. No, I'm not going to. I hate that guy. I hate the first guy. And, somebody who's actually doing work to get the truth out there, to tell the other side of the story, to liberate people, help people get happy and free. That's the person I love. That's a person who's good, and I favor that person to the rapist, right? Pretty obvious stuff, and yet they just want to pour the lithium in the water, make us all just android drones, right? Love our captors. That's the real thing. They don't want us to discern, to think critically. They don't want us to think, oh, wait, maybe Biden's not good for giving me $1,400. Maybe the fact that he just stole a multiple of that just in this round of COVID relief, and I shouldn't use their euphemisms, this wasteful spending bill. Maybe I shouldn't support these people who are enslaving all my friends and family and neighbors and loved ones. Maybe these people are bad and I should hate them, right? Oh, no, you can't hate people. That's against the law. That's harmful. And they're saying here, terrorist groups are being able to radicalize vulnerable people. They also use the information to spread information that is being used to support or carry out terrorist attacks. So information. Oh, they're spreading information. They're radicalizing vulnerable people. Oh, the QAnon people, the terrorists, the terror cell. I'm kidding, of course. It's just so ridiculous, these people. They want to call everything they don't like terrorism. And then they just want to discriminate against people because they just used their terrorism card. They're like, oh, you're a terrorist, now you're on the no-fly list. You shouldn't have gone to the Capitol. It's like, what? What are you guys talking about? Okay, so of course they use the protecting the children thing, and I'm all for that, but the real, why are you passing in the same, umbrella bill, which you call online harms, which is so vague, and we can all see where this is going. It's very Orwellian. Why would you include, oh, well, you can't say that about that medical intervention, and we're going to call this under the same umbrella as you can't do that to children. I'm trying to be vague here. I don't really want to get specific, but you know what I mean. It's like, why are we even trying to why are we killing these two birds with this same stone? It's like, oh, we just need an internet regulator. Then we can solve all our problems. Everyone will say exactly what we need them to say. Look at this too. They don't want there to be actual algorithms. They don't want fair algorithms. They want their controlled systemic ones. They say that if you give people what they want, that's dangerous algorithms. And I am so against that. I mean, this is 2 + 2 = 5 stuff. They're like, fair algorithms are unfair. And then you have Google Machine Learning Fairness Initiative, which is just the opposite of fairness. They're like, oh yeah, I think we want Biden to win. Let's crank up the Biden dial. It's like, that's not machine learning fairness, guys. And then but that's the branch of their product line that they use. They develop all these tools telling all their developers and their data scientists, oh, we're developing machine learning fairness because when people type CEO, too many men pop up. If people type inventor, too many white people pop up. So we need to make sure that we get the right percentages. It's like, and then they use that though. I don't have a problem with either of those other two things, but then they use those tools that they use, very complex, advanced tools, to get their AI to tell them exactly what they want to see. It's no mistake when you go to Google News what you see there, right? It's no mistake at all. When you do Google searches, it's no mistake what pops up. When you go to YouTube and you search or you click around, no mistake, no mistakes. Now, sometimes they don't turn the dial all the way up to create, they don't, I guess, want to boil the frog and have it jump out. Okay, so let's skip around here. Okay, this is a key one. Other behavior and information online can cause serious harm, even if it's not illegal in all cases. The internet can be used to harass, bully, or intimidate. This is especially true for people in vulnerable groups or in public life. Public life, this could be someone famous. So they're celebrity and politician pawns. They don't want you to be able to call them out. Oh, the Bill Gates and the Rothschilds of the world. Oh, they don't want you to be able to talk bad about them. That's harassing them. They're in public life, so that's harmful. How do we plan to deal with these problems, it says? Well, here's what we want to ban, it says essentially. This is the information or activity that puts our way of life in the UK at risk. Being a threat to the safety of the UK. Being a threat to our rights and responsibilities. You guys are a threat to our rights. And see, responsibilities, this is another keyword that they use. Like, they're all getting their lexicon from the same source, it seems like. They're all getting these buzzwords and these mottos and catchphrases from the same source, the same think tank or something. Like responsibility, that's something Google says. Like, speaking of Google, let's show this document real quick. The 4 R's of responsibility, right? Part 1, removing harmful content. So responsibility and harmful, right? These are buzzwords that they're using. They're Pavlovian trigger words that they're using to mind control people. Oh, it's harmful. It's a threat to our democracy. Oh, we have a responsibility. Okay, I'm sold. I'm sold. You guys got me. Censor away. That's what people are saying, not me. Part 1, or step 1, remove content that violates our policy as quickly as possible. 2, the second R, raise up authoritative voices like the people who pre-reported 9/11, the Solomon Brother building collapsing. Oh, they're so authoritarian, they knew it was going to happen even before it made sense to know it. That's how authoritative they are. They get the script ahead of time. So let me just read the whole thing. Raise up authoritative voices when people are looking for breaking news and information. Reward, but only the trusted eligible people, the compromised. Reduce the spread of content that brushes right up against our policy line. So they're admitting to the shadow tactics. They're admitting to removing content. Then you have this other blog post, improving our work. Let me find this. Improving our recommendations, YouTube. Continuing our work to improve recommendations on YouTube. So this admits that admits that they can actively push political any ideas, really. They say that basically they're not going to let people talk about historical events like 9/11 in what they deem to be a false manner. Or alternate medicine. Interesting that this rolled out in 2019. And then also alternate cosmology, which I find very interesting. But there's also another interesting thing I recommend you check out. Operation, or it's not Operation. It should be called Operation. It's a Google Sybil, Sibyl. And there's a video on YouTube where they talk about, this guy talks about his son, and he's like, we basically track my son and we give recommendations to him based on all the data we've collected to engage him and keep him on the site. It's like, wow, that's really creepy when you think about it not being the son of an employee at Google, just every child in the world, right? Now, I don't have a problem with what they talk about in this video personally, other than the spying on the children. I think that's messed up, although in certain circumstances, it wouldn't bother me if it's all just benevolent, but it's not benevolent. We know this. But remember, their algorithm used to be about helping people find content that was valuable to them, to keep them engaged on the site, help Google make more money, gain market share. I actually don't have a problem with that. That's what I call a fair algorithm. And I think we can all remember back, most of us, to the early days, or the golden years of YouTube. Around the time this video came out, 2014. But the problem is they turned this as it says here, large-scale machine learning, from giving people recommended videos that are good to giving recommended videos that mind control people into a state of submissive helplessness. Okay, let's keep going here. Here's the other thing that they want to censor because it puts people's way of life in the UK at risk. Being a threat to integration in the UK. Integration means making sure different people and cultures can come together and take part in society in an equal way. So basically, they're just talking about how they want to put together a regulator for all of the internet. They want to work with corporations, but also rule over them. Let's see. Let me skip ahead here. A new regulatory framework for online safety. The government will put into place a new statutory duty of care to make companies take more responsibility for the safety of their users. Now, so many Pavlovian trigger words here. Duty of care is, again, a euphemism where the government forces companies and people to do what they want, to do their bidding. It's never a good thing. If you hear the government saying, we're here to help by forcing people to fulfill their duty of care, it's like, run. Like, this is some very insidious, dangerous stuff that's been used in history. Like, it's not hard to find. Let me show you. So here's the article about punitive psychiatry, aka the political abuse of psychiatry. Huge concerning issue. We're seeing it rear its ugly head again with the gun control laws in the United States, as well as many other things, but especially the gun confiscation and also censorship in the United States. But let me show you in here, duty of care, or duty to care, I guess, right here. By 1936, killing of the physically and socially unfit became accepted practice in Nazi Germany. In the 1940s, the abuse of psychiatry involved the abuse of the duty of care on an enormous scale. 300,000 individuals were sterilized and 77,000 killed in Germany alone, and many thousands further afield, mainly in Eastern Europe. Psychiatrists were instrumental in establishing a system of identifying, notifying, transporting, and killing hundreds of thousands of racially and cognitively compromised persons and the mentally ill. That's a key one. They just call everyone they don't like mentally ill in terms of dissidents. In settings that ranged from centralized mental hospitals to jails and death camps. So same thing in the Soviet Union as well. Same thing's going on in China. It's happened in the UK and the US. It still does in many instances. So I just wanted to point that out. Duty of care, duty to care, has in history been a major red flag term. Basically, when you get these tyrannical governments, they start forcing the professionals and the companies to also be tyrannical and oppressive. And another thing I wanted to cover here, I know he's out of office, but Trump, this is when I really turned on Trump a lot. I never liked him. I don't like any politicians, but once he said this, I'm like, okay, guys, you guys can no longer say Trump's a good guy and has never done anything wrong. Listen to what he's calling for here after the El Paso shooting. He says, we must recognize that the internet has provided a dangerous avenue to radicalize disturbed minds and perform demented acts. We must shine light on the dark recesses of the internet and stop mass murderers before they start. The internet, likewise, is used for human trafficking, illegal drug distribution, and many other heinous crimes, which I thought was kind of him setting the stage for what Barr was doing. Might have already done, I don't know, in terms of outlawing encryption. He says, this is Trump, the perils of the internet and social media cannot be ignored, and they will not be ignored. We cannot allow ourselves to feel powerless. We can and will stop this evil contagion. This is interesting phraseology before the last year of events. We must seek real bipartisan solutions. We have to do that in a bipartisan manner. That will truly make America safer and better for all. Yeah, we just need to censor more people and engage in punitive psychiatry. That's how we make America great again, right? All right, going back to the speech here, he says, first, we must do a better job of identifying and acting on early warning signs. I am directing the DOJ to work in partnership with local, state, and federal agencies as well as social media companies to develop tools that can detect mass shooters before they strike. Cultural change is hard. We must reform our mental health laws to better identify mentally disturbed individuals who may commit acts of violence and make sure these people not only get treatment, but when necessary, involuntary confinement. And of course, treatment's another euphemism. Involuntary confinement just sounds horrendous. And there's other ways that you could put it that are even worse. Kidnapping, abduction, slavery, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to think. That's kind of... That implies that they're being forced to work. Mental illness and hatred pull the trigger, says Trump. We must make sure that those judged to pose a grave risk to public safety do not have access to firearms. And if they do, those firearms can be taken through rapid due process. That is why I have called for red flag laws, also known as extreme risk protection orders. Today, I am directing the Department of Justice to propose legislation ensuring that those who commit hate crimes and mass murders face the death penalty. All right, so I just wanted to cover that. Before we get back to reading through that write-up from the UK government, I did want to show one other thing. We see this law being proposed in the United States as well. This is from last year, H.R. 6937, Countering Online Harms Act. So, and this is actually from a Republican, Brett Guthrie. This guy here wants to censor the internet, seemingly. Oh, look, he lives right by Frankfurt. Okay, so let's go back to this article here. What is the UK government proposing for their regulatory framework? Oh, here's their definition of... Okay, here it says, it will make companies deal with harm that is caused by information or activity on their sites. Oh, harm caused by information. I thought you guys were saying that people were being abusive and harassing. Now people are putting information on their sites. Oh, the information. So there's this whole idea of misinformation and punishing and forcing companies to take down misinformation and prosecuting and criminalizing misinformation. And they want to have people's IDs in the system now. So when somebody says anything that's wrong, they can go and attack them with the full force of the law and investigate them. Information or activity on their sites. Oh, we don't want activism. We don't want information out there. Not if it's harmful. Oh no, if it's harmful, then we can't have that. Statutory duty of care is defined here as a duty in law. It means that an organization must show how it takes care of the people that use its services. That's one way to put it. It actually means that an organization is forced to comply with how the government tells them to, quote, care, which is another ugly euphemism in this case because it's not really caring all the time, or most of the time even. An independent regulator will make sure companies meet this duty of care. So forcing the terms and conditions, we covered this already. It says here the power to make big fines if the regulator doesn't like people, companies. Oh no, harm that is illegal, for example, incitement of violence. That means information that pushes people to carry out violence. See, like this idea of information is interesting that they use it this way. Like, in many definitions of incitement of violence, you have to be very specific and give marching orders to people. Like, you, go attack so-and-so, right? Not publishing a documentary about the Federal Reserve or something that might be information that pushes people to carry out violence. So, very interesting, the word in here. I don't think any of this is accidental. They're going after information. Remember, the WHO called it an infodemic. They said there's too much correct and incorrect information on the internet. And that's a problem. It's like, wait, there's too much information? How is that a problem? It's like burning a library, like, oh, there's too much fiction. None of this really happened. Too much information. It's like, why don't you just feel confident and secure in your own beliefs? And you guys think you're so smart, then why don't you convince people that you're right? Oh, you can't do that? So you're going to cheat? I see. All right, so it goes on and on and on. Let me see if there's anything else in here I want to cover. So here are the companies that come under their regulatory framework. Any companies that allow users to share or search for information written by users. Why are they focusing on information, guys? You really have to ask yourself that. They're not talking about abusive, harassing content. They're talking about information. And yes, I understand that information is a broad category that could include abusive, harassing content, but also it includes documentaries and memes and text posts, right? It really pisses me off how they're saying, oh, anywhere that allows you to share or search for information written by users. That's so vague. That is so vague. Or companies that allow users to talk or communicate with each other online. So everybody that allows conversation to happen, anybody that allows information to be posted. You know how broad that is? That's like everything that matters on the internet. These services are offered by a lot of different companies of all sizes. Social media platforms, file hosting sites, public discussion forums, messaging services, and search engines. You guys see what they're going after here? And they're doing it in the name of protecting the children, yet they're stealing the knowledge from said children, which is such a horrendous crime, because in doing so, you're stealing from them their mind and their ability to think for themselves and make up based on the evidence of their own minds. It's disgusting what they're doing. These people don't care about children from the looks of it. So I guess there's no size requirement. It's not just going to be the big companies. It's going to be everything. An independent regulator for online safety. They need to make sure that the taxpayers fund it enough. It needs to have resources. Making sure the rules are followed. They need to be able to charge big fines. Look, here's a big bag of money that they're stealing from somebody. Oh, the regulator also needs to be able to stop the business activities of a company that does not keep it to the rules. So, just total coercion. Oh, we're going to shut you down. You didn't follow the rules. We're going to shut you down. You allowed people to speak without censoring them. All right, so that's the online harms in the UK. One of the biggest threats to our ability to communicate and exchange information where everybody is on the internet. Wow, this is lovely. Oh, here's another article. This is all about C-19 in the infodemic. Remember I was talking about the infodemic where, right here, it says it again. Just as straight off the WHO's talking points. It says, the world has faced an infodemic of information, both accurate and false. Oh, there's an infodemic of accurate information, they said. Oh, and there's there's false and accurate information. There's just too much information. We can't handle it. It's like, well, then that's your fault. You're too dumb to deal with information. That's not my fault. That's not humanity's fault. We like information. We want information. We think that everybody should have a voice and let the best speaker win. Let the best presenter and researcher win. Oh, no. That's an infodemic. There's too many people publishing stuff. We just want the BBC, CNN, the people who pre-reported Building 7 falling before it did. So it says here, the government takes the issue of disinformation and misinformation very seriously. So this is what they're trying to do. And they're using this as a justification for this online harms thing that they've been talking about for a while. Even before the so-called pandemic, they've been pushing for online harms censorship. And now they're like, hey, this is exactly why we wanted that bill. See, we could stop this if we had the government. So they're already bragging about what they're going to do with this thing. They're already saying, no, this isn't really about protecting children, at least exclusively. This is about censoring people who say things that we deem to be incorrect. Because we want the internet thought police. This is like really messed up, horrible stuff. And not many people talk about this. Okay, so I want to point out here. They want to be able to audit algorithms. And they want to basically say that algorithms can be harmful too and dangerous. They want to make tech companies rely on quality journalism to provide authoritative information. I almost said authoritarian, but it's really a synonym, really, a more honest one, I believe. So they're basically talking about how this is an example of something that they want to crack down with their online harms laws. So all they have to do is pretend like something's harmful or dangerous, and then they can shut it down. And it's totally arbitrary and up to their subjective impression, or at least what they pretend like is their opinion, right? A lot of it could just be for control and political ends, what they pretend to be correct and what they pretend to be incorrect or harmful or hateful. It says the government must empower the new regulator to go beyond ensuring that tech companies enforce their own policies, community standards, and terms of service. The regulator must ensure that these policies themselves are adequate in addressing the harms faced by society. It should have the power. See, harms, like it's all the same buzzwords over and over again. That's why we have to really talk to people and show to them these terms: responsibility, duty of care, harms, right? These are all terms that they're using against us. They want to be able to basically just force companies' hands. Like, I don't want to like cover too much stuff that we've already talked about. Here they're talking about user verification and stopping the spread of misinformation. Oh, and then look, we have the petition. Now somebody in the public is coming out and saying, oh no, we need to make sure everybody has a government ID and we need to track everybody. It's like, this sounds like a government agent. Are you kidding me? Like, what person would be like, yeah, we need the government to scan my ID before I get on the internet? Oh my goodness. And then they talk here about misinformation, but over here it's about bullying their disabled child, right? And like, who's on the internet bullying disabled children except for government agents trying to pass more regulation? And shame on anybody who does that, but I don't think it's a huge issue, and I question who's doing it and for what reason. Remember, we talked about JTRIG and their document, The Art of Deception, where they wanted to build cyber magicians, it says. And they have all these different tactics that they're training people. And there's other documents too. Remember this one here? Basically lie on the internet, make up fake accounts, play the accounts off of one another, create persuasive communications. Also shut down people's stuff and slander people and create scandals around somebody that will make them lose credibility. All right, where were we? Is there anything else? I mean, this is a marathon stream here, but I really think this stuff is important. Okay, let's move on. Oh, and then I think we covered this earlier. The police are telling people, for instance, in what's it called, Netherlands, the Dutch police are saying, stop harassing the pedophiles on the internet. Let them be. No more pedophile hunting. That's our job that we're not going to do. You guys don't actually police these creeps and these people who are stalking children. It's like, wait, you're telling us that you need to censor the entire internet, but you're going to basically get mad at people for taking this into their own hands? It's disgusting. It's really disgusting. This is all about power. It's all about these people are control freaks. They want all the power and all the control. And speaking of control freaks, look at this. When you start typing into Google, why censorship, look at the autocomplete. Why censorship is important. Why censorship is necessary. Why censorship is important in social media. We'll leave it there. We do have a website where we're countering the censorship. It's called groupdiscover.com. We have a coupon right now, limited time coupon, so make sure to snag it if you want to save 40%. And it's a recurring lifetime savings. So 40% off with the coupon code no forced meds, all lowercase one word, no forced meds, which is another thing these governments want to do, but somehow they don't see that as being harmful. Oh no, that's not harmful, but too much accurate and incorrect information That's an infodemic, and we need to censor everything. Absolutely crazy. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Check out Group Discover. Also, check out my Odyssey invite link. If you're not over there yet, you definitely want to be over there, especially if you haven't migrated off of YouTube yet. That's where most of my reports are, or actually all my reports. I would say that most of my reports don't get put onto YouTube. Let's say it that way. So thanks for watching. I think this is very concerning what's happening with the online harms agenda. The internet censorship and surveillance is a huge problem that threatens our ability to communicate and share information, and it needs to be addressed. It needs to be fought back against, in my opinion, and I will continue to do that. So if you want to support the channel and help me fight against this, and at the same time exchange in an information environment that is not curated or controlled by these oligarchs, check out groupdiscover.com. Have a great day.